Hi folks, welcome to this final video on dealing with par value bonds that are issued at a date different than the bond date. So here we have a company that has $1.2 million in bonds. They pay a 5% coupon, and the bonds were available for purchase by investors. That means the date of the bond is September the 1st, 2014. Interest is going to be payable every quarter. So that means every 3 months is how often we're going to pay interest, right? So 1 over 4 is a quarter, but a quarter of 12 months is 3 months, right? So we're going to start paying that interest at November the 30th. The bonds were actually issued to investors on October the 1st, 2014. So you can see that the date the bonds are dated, September the 1st, is different from the date the investors actually took ownership of the bonds, which is October the 1st. So what does that mean? If the investors want to get the full 3 months of interest that's payable on November the 30th, they've only been in the game from October the 1st, which is 2 months. So they have to pay up front from the bond date to the issue date, which is 1 month from September 1st to October 1st. They have to pay for that in advance, so that even though they're in the game from October the 1st to November 30th, which is 2 months, they're going to get 3 months in interest because they're prepaying interest for 1 month. So what does the entry look like on October the 1st when the company Sienna issues the bonds to investors? Well, investors aren't going to give them just $1.2 million. They're going to give them $1.2 million plus $5,000. How did we get the $5,000? Well, again, the bond is a par value bond, so it's not issued at a premium, it's not a discount, it's a par value bond, which means that in most cases, the investor would give the issuer the face value only, which is $1.2 million. However, because the investors want to receive a full 3 months of interest on November the 30th, when they've only held the bond for 2 months, they have got to pay in advance to get the $5,000 at a later date, which is part of their interest payment on November the 30th. So what are we going to do? We're going to calculate at 5% per year, they have to pay up front for 1 month of 12. This 5%, don't forget, this is always an annual rate. So we're calculating here the amount of interest payment that the investors who bought the bond have to give the issuer, Sienna, up front in order to get a full 3 months interest payment at the end of November, even though they've only been in the game for 2 months. And that means they have to pay up $5,000. So the investor is going to give Sienna cash for $1.205 million. Bonds payable are still going to be at their face value, but now Sienna sits up interest payable of $5,000. Why? Because that $5,000 is part of the 3-month interest payment that they're going to give back to the investors. So now on November the 30th, when we make our interest payment, what are we going to have to do? Well, we're going to have to calculate interest expense for 2 months, because from the issue date to the interest payment date, we book expense. And how much would that be? Well, we're going to calculate expense using the market rate, which, because it's a par value bond, is the same as the coupon rate. So we're going to take $1.2 million times the market rate, which happens to be the same as the coupon, times 2 over 12, because you only calculate expense. So I'll just put a note here. Calculate expense from issue date to interest payment date, right? That's how you calculate it. And that's 2 months, so that's $10,000. Part of what the investors are going to get in cash is the $5,000 they paid up front at the issue date, October the 1st. So the investors now are getting a full 3 months of cash. And we're crediting cash here because we're doing it from Sienna's perspective, the issuer's perspective, right? So they have to pay out or credit cash for $15,000, which is how we calculate interest that we're paying, based on the face value times the coupon times 3 months. Because don't forget, the investors paid 1 month up front, plus because they've been in the game for 2 months, they get 2 months of interest. So 1 month that they've paid up front, right, plus 2 months, October and November, that gives us 3 months, and that's $15,000. So this concludes our video on issuing par value bonds when the bond date and the issue date are different.